Welcome friends to a talk about meditation. And to me, meditation is coming home. Welcome to my home. You're inside my kuti this evening, because outside it's like swimming through mosquitoes. So as much as one can have patient endurance through meditation, and whilst sweeping, it's difficult to talk in a relaxed fashion when you're being eaten alive. The rain has been quite a bit of rain recently in Thailand. We're coming into the wet season, I understand, although I think it's a little early. So in the forest things all come to life. Lots of noises will begin. You'll no doubt hear as the sun goes down. And the frogs are getting very lively, the geckos are getting very lively, the snakes are getting very lively, the reptiles. So it's time for monks to batten down the hatches, so to speak, or just to sit in our kutis where we can practice relatively free from disturbance of biting insects. As you see, although these are slatted, there's some mesh netting externally which keeps most of them out. Now, coming home, this is how we should consider meditation. Not a task. It's something that you consider at the end of your tasks, something to look forward to. So at the end of a busy day, or just at a time when you want to relax, you want to be calm, and you want to feel the refuge, the seclusion, the protection, the safety and the comfort of a cozy, warm, pleasant environment that we associate with home, we call home. And within each breath we can return to this home in our minds throughout our days. And I'm going to talk about meditation, which is the second of the three sections we divide the Noble Eightfold Path into. The Noble Eightfold Path, to those of you that are new to Buddhism, don't worry, it's applicable to everybody, not just Buddhists, not just religious people, not even really just meditators, but it helps lead people towards meditation as a practice that can be enjoyed. And the Noble Eightfold Path is right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort. And these last three are really meditation. So right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. Right effort is energy, motivation, the effort we put into our meditation. The effort we need to have in the first stages of this practice, before we really are enjoying our meditation, to just do it. Because often we'll say, well, not just now, I'll do it tomorrow, I'll do it later. But no, if you don't feel like meditating, this is the time to meditate. But let's look at what meditation is, and that's what I want to talk to you about today. And then you'll see how easy it is to be tempted to want to meditate, and also to be able to meditate all of the time without much effort. The effort is required in terms of keeping those first aspects of the Noble Eightfold Path, which relate to developing wholesome mind states and reducing unwholesome mind states, which we call wisdom, panya, and also keeping our virtue, our moral conduct, good conduct, by keeping precepts, simple precepts, to do no harm to ourselves or others. Meditation is, in the Noble Eightfold Path, described in the last two, number 7, number 8, as sati, which gets translated as mindfulness, and samadhi, which gets translated as concentration. But really, sati is, these are Pali words. This is the ancient Pali language of India that is used in Theravada Buddhism, as opposed to Sanskrit, which you might have heard in Mahayana Buddhism. So I will only be talking using those references, just to add that bit in. Sati is translated as mindfulness, but can be more accurately translated as recollection or remembering, and more specifically remembering to remember. And this is being mindful. It's like also being careful. Now often when you're not being careful and you accidentally stub your toe, or here, this is the most distressing thing for me, is it's quite easy, however careful you're being, to tread on little snails, which obviously does them harm. Now this isn't breaking the precept of not killing and doing harm to other beings, because of course it's not intentional. This is where right intention in the Noble Eightfold Path is very important. You cannot walk anywhere in this world without, unless you're very careful. The Jains are a tradition in India who walk around with a brush in front of them and wear masks even before COVID, so as they don't breathe in any microscopic insects. But we can't be like that. We have to be realistic to live in the world. And walking through the forest, these very camouflaged little snails that are in leaves, under leaves, you can easily tread on one, because you've forgotten to be really looking carefully. After the rain they come out, you see, so you must remember. And sati means that. There's a word called sati sampajana in Pali, which means continuous recollection, continuously remembering throughout your day as a practice. And this is really the true meaning between Buddhist mindfulness, as opposed to some people's modern day understanding of mindfulness, which tends to get a bit overused in this day and age to some extent. But in this practice, it is a case of remembering, and I'll explain how that works in a moment. And then next is samadhi, which gets translated as concentration, but really is bringing your mind into a single point of focus on one object of meditation, like the breath, breathing in and breathing out. Now if you think of a laser beam focused sharply on one dot, a spotlight on one spot, it's like that, as opposed to our broad beam of light taking into account everything. So it's more bringing it into focus. Why it is that rather than concentration is because concentration, although I said we need right effort, we do not need to be trying too hard. If we're trying, if we're really trying to concentrate on something, our muscles, both in our physical, in our bodies, physically, will be tensing, and also we'll be really straining our thinking brains, our minds, to try and concentrate on something. And samadhi is not that. Samadhi is establishing through mindfulness and through conscious awareness and patient endurance, sitting, observing, knowing. It is allowing, with this settling process, your mind to become calm, and with this settling process your body to relax, and in turn your mind to focus on one thing, letting all the distractions of bodily feelings and your thinking mind dissipate. And this is true calmness. This is samadhi. So we have a combination of two things: mindfulness, sati, and meditation, samadhi. And often we hear this other word, vipassana, as a type of meditation in conjunction with samadhi. Now, vipassana actually means seeing clearly. And this isn't actually a type of meditation, it isn't actually a practice, it is something you develop. You develop vipassana, the ability to see clearly, through the practice of samadhi and sati, through the practice of mindfulness, and we'll call it concentration because it's a single word, concentration, meditation. And some people say, what's the difference between vipassana and samadhi? Or can you do vipassana without samadhi? No, you don't do any of these things. And you simply have to understand the Noble Eightfold Path in its simplest forms as three things: sila, samadhi, panya. Sila is keeping moral virtue, samadhi is meditation, panya is wisdom. Samadhi includes mindfulness or sati as part of the development of vipassana, seeing clearly, and actually as part of the development of enlightenment, becoming enlightened. Buddha means awakened one, awake, and this is what enlightenment is. It's becoming awake to reality, the truth. Now I just want to talk about meditation in isolation from sila and panya, so just samadhi. And this second part of this three-part summary of this Noble Eightfold Path, coming at the end of the Noble Eightfold Path as right effort, right mindfulness and right concentration, is so very important, because it is where we develop seeing clearly, it's where we develop wisdom, which is the first part of the Noble Eightfold Path, right view. And therefore it encourages us to go on to have right intention, right speech, right actions. This is all relating to sila, moral virtue, acts of body, speech and mind. All of our acts of body, speech and mind are karma. This is what karma means, actions. And we can divide that into actions of body, speech and mind. These are the causes and conditions that determine our current moment, our current situation, our current state, our state of mind and our physical state are all as a result of previous causes and conditions that only we put in place. Now we can blame others and surrounding circumstances, yes, but ultimately we are responsible for putting ourselves in any situations previously to the moment we are in now. But what we can do right here, right now, is decide to sit and meditate. And at this point, really leave behind us in the past everything that has happened as being just that. It's happened. Nothing you can do about it. Leave it behind you. Think of it as lots of heavy boxes, bags. You've put them down. Now you're going to meditate. Nothing, you can't go back, can't change anything. Maybe you can now make the determination to, in future, improve all your acts of body, speech and mind. Try and develop wholesome mind states, and try and reduce unwholesome mind states, and be a better person. But that's all. Don't worry about all the things that have gone before. And then don't start thinking and worrying about the future. That hasn't happened yet. It might not happen. All that is important for our meditation is now, is here and now. Now, like all things, we get into meditation, we are enthusiastic about it. Well, this sounds great. I sit, I don't worry about the past, I don't worry about the future. I watch the breath. And at first it's rather nice, and we're quite enthusiastic about it. But like all things, after a little while, the novelty wears off. The determination, the enthusiasm. Like when you first get a new gym membership and you're going every day, and then once a week, and then once a month, and then before you know it, a year's gone by and you haven't been for 6 months or 8 months. And you consider, well, should I renew that membership? I mean, I don't know whether that actually happens. I've never had such a thing, but I think I've heard that story. You could think of it as something else. You may take up learning a language as a hobby or another hobby. And first of all, it's all every day, then it's every week, and then it reduces and you get less and less. And that's natural, that's normal. Where meditation is different is we don't treat it as something we do separately from the rest of our lives. We need to incorporate it into our lives, keeping it fresh. So all sitting like this and meditating is a continuation of your meditation you've been practicing all day long. Maybe beginning with some reflection about your day, but then just really letting go of everything, past, and not worrying about the future. Bringing your awareness, your attention to the breath, breathing in and breathing out. And just that. And you may say, well, what do you get from this? Well, this is where your mind is able to settle and become calm. This is where your body is able to settle and relax by simply doing nothing, not trying. But it really requires the practice of sati, mindfulness, in the first place. So when people ask about the difference between vipassana, which often is mistaken for mindfulness, or insight, more so insight, which is a better description, because it's seeing clearly, insight to internal goings on within our minds, really, our thinking minds. And then later on we get into a more intriguing subject of the one that knows, the observer, the witness. We call it in the Pali language and in this Thai Forest tradition the citta. But for now, just talking about meditation and mindfulness, with the practice of mindfulness throughout your day, you're able to sit and develop samadhi more easily. And with the practice of sitting and developing samadhi, you're able to practice mindfulness throughout your day more easily. So they go together like two sides of the same hand or coin. You cannot have one without the other. And let's see about mindfulness in our day. How do we go about being mindful. We take our meditation object with us. And what can we most easily take with us on our day? Now it isn't, you can't see my shrine in here because it's too high, but we can't take our Buddha Rupa, our shrine, or our incense sticks, or even we may have some meditation app on our phone, but we can't have this going ding, ding, remember to be mindful. If we're in a busy meeting, for instance, people will think, who's this crazy person? We're not going to take our guided meditations and be listening to those. We may be, but we have to go about our ordinary daily lives, and we don't necessarily have accoutrements, accessories. But the Buddha didn't need these. He didn't teach that we needed these. You can just use this body that we have. Now, with all of the mosquitoes out there, I'm constantly brought back into the body, because you're being, it's not bad biting, you get very used to it because there's so many. And this is constantly awareness, this tingling, coming back into the body. But without that, when we're walking on arms round, for instance, and then we're walking into the village or into a town, if we're going on a special trip, one can bring, as you can, your attention back to the breath continuously. And this is the aim. This is how we bring ourselves back into the body and back into the present moment. Because each breath, as we breathe in, is here, it's now. It's not only bringing you into the present moment, it is bringing you into the body awareness. It is reminding you, you are remembering, you are recollecting the observation of the breath. And this is what sati means. But we're not machines. Our brains, our minds are not machines. We cannot program them to do something. Even if we have an app or something playing in our earbuds to remind us, or if we have an alarm set to remind us to be mindful, we'll soon ignore it, and our mind will wander and it'll do its normal thing. We have little control over our thinking brains. But with training, with practice, with sitting practice, developing samadhi, and with continual practice of mindfulness as and when we can throughout our day, well, we always can throughout our day, we will develop the ability to come back to the meditation object, come back to the breath more often. But you see, we're not coming back because we haven't gone anywhere. The moment you remember to come back and watch the breath, you haven't gone away. The breath has been there continuously with you. You've been thinking about something else, but the moment you remember to think about the breath, you're no longer away thinking about something else. You've come back to the breath. And this is a toing and froing to some extent initially. But rather than trying to program our minds, we need to just keep reminding ourselves to come into the moment now. So if you think of our day, our active, busy days, as a huge pile of washing up. Now, when I first lived as a lay person in the monasteries, especially, well, here in Thailand, my life seemed to be cleaning and washing up, mainly washing up after the mealtime. Even before the mealtime, there was a huge amount of washing up. And then after the meal, an even more huge amount of washing up. Piles and piles of pots to wash, scrub, clean, put out on racks and dry. And they were very difficult to wash. They were all rice, all stuck on the bottom of the pan things. So you had to really get it was hard work. You still have the heat, you still have the mosquitoes, you still have the not necessarily the most practical and comfortable clothing to be doing such things in, white that you have to keep clean. and you're far away from home, you're unused to the food, the climate, but you've got all this washing up, and there's piles of it coming, and it seems like it's endless each and every day, never ending. As soon as you think you've got to an end, someone brings a lot more along, and this can go on for hours. And what is the problem there? Well, you're thinking that this can go on for hours, and just as you think you've finished, you start getting all excited and someone brings a load more and you're deflated again. So what we do is look at your day like this. You have all of this stuff, like lots of pots and pans and plates to wash up, and you're thinking about that, and you're thinking about what you've done and what's finished. No. Come into the moment here and now and think about the plate or the pot you're washing, and just that. And then wash it with gratitude, wash it with pleasure, wash it with enjoyment. Take refuge in the moment, take refuge in the thing you are doing right now. It's like coming home into the moment. It may be just a dirty old pot in a not such a great sink with unusual water supply and strange versions of detergent and weird bits to use to rub the detergent on, nothing that you're used to. You could be doing a difficult job that you're not used to. It could be a difficult client that you've not got to really know yet, and a whole new saga is about to begin. But even that, with another person, you can bring into this moment all distractions of what you've got to come and what you've done, and come into the moment. So back to your washing your plate or your pot, you just wash it and you enjoy it. And you say, look, I am just washing this pot, and I'm going to do it to the best of my ability. And this you can apply to anything you're doing, of body acts, of body, speech and mind. And you wash and wash and you enjoy it, you really enjoy it. That sounds a little bit crazy and far-fetched, but try it next time you're washing up. Take a cup, wash it up, and really enjoy it, feel the water, feel it getting clean, and when it's clean, admire it. And don't think about what's coming next. Put the pot down and then take the next one and enjoy that. Each moment at a time. And then the moments flow. But you're bringing your awareness into this moment. Now, two things happen. It becomes just one pot at a time. Like one day at a time, or 1 hour at a time, or 1 minute at a time. You're just keeping yourself present with this one job to do, not the many to come. So it actually does become more enjoyable. If it's a person, you can give 100% attention to that person and listen more carefully. And what you're developing here naturally is mindfulness, sati. It's impossible to remember to remember. Sati means remembering, recollection, remembering to remember. We cannot remember to remember. We only remember when we've forgotten, and then we've remembered. We cannot say remember to remember to remember, because if we do, we are just saying a mantra that is going to allow us to repeat by rote and go on to another subject matter, and thereby forgetting what we thought we were trying to remember. But what we can remember is, when we do come back to the moment, is to savour that moment, for what it is. And by knowing you're in the moment, even for the shortest of time, this is sati. And this is how we develop sati sampajana. So mindfulness all of the time, recollection of mindfulness continuously throughout our days, whatever our activities. And this is what we're trying to achieve. It is actually quite easy to put into practice in everyday life without changing anything about your activities. You just need to make a determination to come back to your meditation object. Maybe say, I'll watch the breath for a few moments, just stop, and then I'll carry on about what I'm doing. And then every now and again, just stop and come back to watching the breath. But then when you are doing something like washing up, really get into that one item that you are cleaning, forgetting about all what you've done and all that you have to come. This is the same as in meditation, forgetting about the past and the future. It doesn't matter. All that is here is now, this one cup, this one plate. So enjoy it. It's all you have. So why not enjoy it? And whether it's an interesting task, an enjoyable task, or whether it's a boring task, an unenjoyable task, it is the same thing. You can take pleasure in your activities. You have only the input through your sensory perception of seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, and then your thinking mind continuing to make judgments over what you're seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting and touching. So allow your thinking mind to just come into the present moment and not make judgments, and be present, literally that, present with what you are doing. And this is being careful, this is being mindful, this is not treading on any snails, because you're remembering to remember, sati sampajana. Now every time I forget to remember and I tread on a snail, I stop and I say sati sampajana. You know, you could have avoided that. It is very difficult, it's dark and it's very difficult. So I don't tell myself off, but I still stop and remind myself that this is a good way to remember to be more careful in future. But I stop in that moment and use that moment to tell myself that. So how do we create causes and conditions that can really allow for mindfulness, allow for samadhi? That is simply keeping the precepts. Because if we are mindful, if we have sati with regards to all of our acts of body, speech and mind, we will keep the precepts. We are able to keep the precepts more easily than you think. The precepts, I mean, they are the 5 rules in Buddhism and are applicable to everybody, of no killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, lying, or the taking of intoxicants. If we are free from those actions of body, speech and mind, we've covered a whole aspect, a whole part, the first or the second, third, fourth and fifth point on the Noble Eightfold Path. So we've developed right view, which is developing wholesome mind states and reducing unwholesome mind states. And then number 2 is intention, number 3 is right speech, so right intention, right speech, right actions. right livelihood. And then number 6 is right effort. So effort it also is required to keep the moral precepts, to remind yourself. So precepts help you help you in being mindful. So sila, precepts, helps you with sati, mindfulness, and also sati, mindfulness, helps you keep sila, precepts. Now the beautiful thing about this Noble Eightfold Path, it all interrelates like that. So right view, the understanding of the fundamental faculties of existence, firstly the Four Noble Truths, that there's suffering, a cause of suffering, an end of suffering, and the path leading to the end of suffering, this Noble Eightfold Path, right view, and that all things are impermanent, unsatisfactory, and out of our control. This understanding is right view. This is wisdom. And this helps us to keep precepts, right speech, right actions, right livelihood, and right effort to do that. And with all this in place, we are well established. We have the groundwork in place, the foundations, the firm basis for meditation, sati, mindfulness, samadhi, concentration. The enthusiasm will drop off because you're not getting the rewards back yet. But you remind yourself in every moment, as you have the chances to do so many times throughout the day. There is so much, even in the busiest day, time when we think we're busy, when we're not really doing anything. If you look at it into little small packages, whilst you're waiting for the kettle to boil, or washing a cup to put the coffee into, this is a moment where you can be truly mindful of what you're doing in the present moment. This is practicing sati. This is mindfulness. If you have an opportunity to sit and just watch the breath, this can be samadhi once you've established a good practice and you're able to develop samadhi in formal sitting meditation, maybe at home in a good environment. You can do it anywhere. So these two go together. So through your day, bring your attention into the body by firstly watching the breath. Not watching, breathing in and breathing out, and knowing the breath. Not necessarily at the tip of the nose, just wherever you notice it. You know you're breathing if you bring your awareness to breathing. And relax your face. By relaxing your face, everything else in your body will relax too. Try it. Don't take my word for it. Try these things. Do them. You just do it. For one day. Just that. And you will see at the end of that day what an improvement you've made. Your day would have gone more smoothly. And then the first thing you'll want to do when you get home is to sit. Because you know when you sit in the evening to meditate, you can reflect on your day as being a good day. But if it wasn't a good day, you haven't been mindful, and you've broken all the precept, that's okay too. Come home. Sit. And then come to the breath. And this is coming home. This is truly coming home. So I want you to think of meditation as that, like I think of meditation, as coming home. My home physically at the moment is this little hut in the middle of the forest, deep in the forest. And it's a very unusual environment for someone from England. But it doesn't matter. It could be here, I could be in a monastery in a city in the middle of India, where I was previously, with 100 monks. But when I sit on this square of material here, or just anywhere on the floor, I'm able to come home. Not go home in my thoughts to wherever I came from in England, or wherever I'd rather be. No, no, no. Here and now, in this moment. Just this breath. This is home. This is where we find calm, serenity, peace. And this is where we find contentment. And as a result of contentment, we have happiness. Happiness cannot be acquired. Things cannot make you happy. Things can make you laugh, make you smile. But only contentment brings deep happiness. Because contentment is not wanting anything else at that moment in time. If you're constantly wanting something more to add to what you have, or you're wanting it to be in the future for something that's going to happen later on, or you're wanting to be something, become something, you may have ambitions, goals. It may be an aspiring career path that you're enthusiastic about, which is also okay, it's good. But in the present moment, none of this matters. It doesn't mean you, relinquish all ambition and give up on life, no. But you take each moment that you can to appreciate what you have in this moment. You stop and you look at the snail, how beautiful it is. You notice the feeling of mosquitoes biting. And you bring your awareness to the disliking, the aversion in your thinking mind to this feeling. And this way, you're practicing mindfulness, but in an enjoyable, refreshing, invigorating, and energizing way. And by enjoying it in an energizing, invigorating, refreshing way, enjoying this throughout your day, you have enthusiasm re-established for sitting in samadhi, for practicing meditation when you get home. And in turn you have enthusiasm for the next day to practice mindfulness throughout your day. So these two go so, well, one cannot be without the other. So try that out. Remember, you can't remember to be remembering. You're not a machine. You cannot be programmed. But you can continue to practice and to train yourself to just come home to now. You're not coming back to the breath, even when you're sitting in samadhi. You're not coming back to your meditation object because you didn't ever go anywhere. Your breath was always there. And if it had stopped, you'd know. So just make your awareness. It has been distracted. So often when we're sitting in samadhi, in meditation, or just sitting, not in samadhi, say we're trying to sit in samadhi, okay, we're sitting in meditation, that's not samadhi. They often refer to meditation here as samadhi. Well, samadhi is actually a state of mind developed through meditation. So that's why I make that mistake sometimes, talking. But you're sitting in meditation, waiting for samadhi, let's say, but you have forgotten your meditation object. You've not been watching it for you don't know how long. But what brings you back to your meditation object? Now you didn't go away, but say it's an external noise. Or if it's a guided meditation, someone's saying, come back to the breath, watch the breath, relax your face, some little encouraging words. This is the point of guided meditations. It's assuming you're not in samadhi and you've been thinking about this and that, and it's reminding you to watch the breath, to know the breath. But similarly in the day, things will happen that will remind you, things will happen that won't necessarily remind you to watch the breath or be in the present moment, but when you establish watching the breath and being in the present moment as home, then when anything you don't like happens in the day, you'll want to go home. You'll breathe and you'll be back in the present moment. And then when something you do like happens in the day, you'll similarly want to appreciate it more, and you'll breathe and you'll be in the present moment. So it's not training the mind like training a muscle in the gym. It's training the mind by slight adjustments of your focus of attention on things, perspective, how you see things. So whether you like something or whether you don't like something, you don't go to it, you don't run away from it. You stay in the present moment with equanimity, and you know it for what it is. You know the bodily feelings that are arising, good or bad. You know that the thinking process, the mental thoughts that are arising, good or bad. And this just gives you a moment at home, refreshing you and invigorating you. And this is how we go about our days, happily. And then when we sit to meditate, it's so much more easy to do and enjoyable, because this must be an enjoyable practice, otherwise you won't want to do it. So we'll try this, we'll talk about this a little bit more when I talk next, probably about reflections and how we bring that into this practice. I have spoken about reflections before, but it's important to always come back to that. So soon I'll talk to you about that also. Thank you for watching.